come in.
So hello, everyone. I'm Ma here, and I'm part of WARP7, and this is our scholarship seminar. So sorry for the delay. We had a bit of technical issues, but we're good now. We first want to do land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Seminar logistics. All seminars will be recorded and will be accessible on our website at warp7.ca/seminar series. All participants should have their cameras off and be muted. Questions should be asked through the chat only, and all you have to do is send your questions to the person named Send Questions here, and anytime you want, and we will say them out at the end of the seminar. I'd like to introduce, before that, our upcoming dates are next week. We have our sponsorship acquisition with Junior from Wealthsimple. Then the week after, we have budgeting with Wealthsimple. And the final seminar is paying for post-secondary with a speaker from Wealthsimple. I'd like to introduce our speakers, Arti from First Canada and Joanna from First Canada. If you guys want to say anything quickly, then you have to. Oh, Arti, you're muted.
Hi, everyone. This is Arti Javeri from First Robotics Canada, and I manage the partnerships piece here for Ontario and First Canada. So happy to be here today talking about scholarships.
And hi, everyone. I'm Joanna, and I do the communications at First Robotics Canada, and I am also super excited to be here as well.
All right. Thanks, Mahir. So many of you are here today, from high school. Most of you are in high school that are watching or that are hearing us today. And you've heard the word scholarships, and some of you might get excited hearing that. Some of you might think it's a lot of work and you're not sure what to do or what to do. And some of you might think you're never eligible for something that's called scholarships. But today, Joanna and I are here to give you some information that I hope will help you not just apply for scholarships, but to also understand the impact it can have on your life and where you can find information and resources relating to scholarships. There are different types of scholarships, and we'll cover some of that today. The key to remember is that just being part of FIRST can make you eligible for scholarships. So I think if you're part of a FIRST team today, whether it's FRC or FTC, you would be eligible for many scholarships that me and Joanna are going to kind of give you a high overview about. So why apply for a scholarship? I think mainly many of you should know it will cover some or most part of your tuition and the cost of education. So it releases the stress from you. Imagine, getting out of university or college and you have nothing to pay or nothing to owe. Scholarship can do things like that. So that's pretty cool. So I think it's great to apply for that one big reason. Also, some scholarships can be really life-changing. I mean, the bottom line is imagine you getting a scholarship and working with the scholarship donor, whether it's a university, college, or a community scholarship partner, and being able to impact them, not just you, but also impacting them. So it can be sometimes pretty impactful in terms of your growth personally during your post-secondary education. And it is a huge deal. So make sure you do check out scholarships if you're in grade 11 or 12. It's never too early to check them out, to know what's out there and to keep that ready. So if you move to the next slide, there are many types of scholarships that we'll talk about, and I'll focus a little bit upon the post-secondary institutions for you. But FIRST really has a strong partnership with many FIRST colleges and universities across US, across Canada. And as you can see on the screen, we have almost $80 million in scholarships that's allocated for you, for FIRST students, be it an FRC team member or an FTC team member. So it's really important that you do take a look at this, that you find how the scholarships can impact your post-secondary education. So we'll provide you more links later, but if you move to the next slide, really what does that $80 million mean for you personally? And I think what we want to kind of highlight today is the key to remember is there are 4 different parts, I guess, or high-level parts when you're applying for a scholarship or when you're thinking about scholarship or when you're even investigating or researching about scholarship. And the first thing is, you know that you're going to be exiting high school at some point. Having a resume, I think that's a key. If you don't have a resume, my recommendation is start now. That will be a huge help while you're applying, not just for post-secondary institutions, whether it's college or university or anything else, but it will be a great start for you to understand what are your strengths, what's your portfolio like, what do you want to where, and how would you apply eventually if you do apply for scholarships. That resume will really help you understand your strengths and highlight stuff that you may want to use when you're applying for scholarships. So the number one thing is make sure you can try and have a resume ready. Even if you're in grade 10, 11, it's never too late to start your resume up, and then keep updating it as you move along and as you take on some cool things during high school. The next thing is many of you who are in grade 12 now will be looking at applying to scholarships through your school. Your guidance counselor, your school has probably sent you a lot of instructions. I believe the deadline for applying to universities or colleges in January. So you will be using the Ontario University Application Center to apply for your admissions. So that's your second piece, is making sure you know where to go to apply to universities and colleges. And the third piece is, once you've checked universities and colleges, once you've researched them, once you found out more as to what you really want to do, the next step is looking at, okay, now that I know where I'm going or what I'd like to apply to, which universities, which colleges, the next part is now looking at, okay, what is it in there for me from them that they can offer me? So the key to remember here is there are tons of scholarships that universities and colleges have in place, where you can apply to them directly. So there is, while you're applying for the colleges and universities, there might be a step where you're applying for them, but then the next step is to also apply for scholarships, maybe a separate application, maybe already in the current application, but making sure you do your research correctly to understand that there might be two pieces of that application. One might be applying for your entrance, and the second might be a supplementary or a separate submission to actually apply for that scholarship. And then the fourth piece that is critical is making sure that you keep recommendation letters, or think about recommendation letters. So think about people that you worked with during high school, any voluntary work that you've done with FIRST, any information that you've done or work you've done in the community, kind of keeping all that data together. Again, the resume would help you kind of, remember that, reach out for that, and then be able to then look out for those recommendation letters and making sure that you kind of have that in place. So those four key things: your resume, applying with the Ontario University Application Center, making sure that you look for those scholarships when you're applying, and researching colleges, and then the recommendations letter. I think those are the four key points when you're applying to colleges and universities. If you go to the next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about I'll talk a little bit and give you a snapshot here about some McMaster here that's highlighted here. So when you apply to a college or university, like I mentioned, there might be two application processes. One is the entrance, so you're really applying to enter into McMaster, and the second might be a supplementary application form that you might have to apply to. So in when you're looking at a university or a college and you're looking to apply for them, make sure you check those two things and the deadlines, because they might be two completely separate things. In case of McMaster, there's really one main application form that you would have to fill. This is just an example of a McMaster scholarship where you would fill one application form and you would highlight all the information that you have there and then submit that to the university. And everything that you require probably is in that application form. If you move to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the Waterloo one here. And here you have to fill in a supplementary form for Waterloo. So when you apply to university, you'd apply through a normal process through the Ontario University's Application Center. You fill up the form, you apply to university, but then there's a supplementary application form that you have to submit to Waterloo. And there you can highlight things like FIRST. I think you're even asked in the Waterloo application if you've been part of a FIRST team. McMaster does the same thing. So making sure that you check that box off and then provide any supplementary information to them. That could be videos. It could be an interview that they want to have with you. It could be a essay writing that you have to submit. So it could be a very, very varied amount of requirements that they might have, but making sure that when you're applying, that you check those two boxes, the deadline to apply and making sure that you have, that you know what is required, really what is the content that they're looking for, what are you applying for, what are they looking in that application. I think that's the key point to remember is as much as you want to go to these universities and colleges, the colleges and universities want first students. They want first students because you've done a ton of work that will help you through your first and second and third year at colleges and universities. So they really are looking for first students. So the key is to making sure you are able to understand the deadlines, keep making sure that you're able to put everything together quickly and be able to submit that in the right time frame. If you go to the next slide, it will actually here highlight for you the various universities and colleges that we partner with in Canada. Like we said, there's 80 million in scholarships. That's across US and Canada. Canada alone has a ton of scholarships here for you. So, whether you're going to Waterloo, you're going to Humber College, there's a lot of different scholarship opportunities for you. So make sure you do check out our website, firstroboticscanada.org/scholarships. There's a lot of resources out there that talk about every single scholarship. And if you go to the next page there, it'll give you a quick snapshot of all the scholarships that are available on our website, as well as First Inspires. So make sure you check us out and make sure you do apply to any university and colleges that are out there. I'll now pass it on to Joanna for the next.
Sure. Thanks, Arti. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Mihir. So I want to talk a little bit about what I like to call our internal scholarships. So those are scholarships that aren't necessarily affiliated with a specific university, but they're more affiliated with either some of our partners or individuals or by First Canada themselves. So we have 4 that I want to speak about. So Canadian Women in STEM, the Don Bossy, the Indigenous Scholarship Award, and the First Canada Build a Dream Skilled Trade Scholarship. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the Canadian Women in STEM Scholarship. So it's now in its 4th year, and the scholarship is supported by Kevin Marai and his family, whose daughter was involved in FIRST. So they saw a real need to encourage more women to pursue degrees in science and engineering to give them an even playing field when looking for a meaningful career in STEM. So the Marai family donates $10,000 each year for the scholarship for one female student who demonstrates, among other things, how they are STEM role models. So one of our past recipients, Sarah Arnold, who is currently studying chemical and biomedical engineering at McMaster University, says that she's been so grateful to have the support of the Marai family throughout her university career. Studying in a STEM field, especially as a woman, she says, is not an easy task. Having their guidance has helped her to further herself both academically and professionally, while also being able to encourage other young women to follow their passions. So for this scholarship, the application is due on January 31st, 2022 at 12 p.m. Sorry, at 11:59 p.m. Mihir, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the next scholarship is the Don Bossy Canadian Leadership and Innovation Scholarship. So this scholarship in the amount of $5,000 was created in recognition of Don Bossy, who I'm sure most of you know who he is, but he served as president of FIRST from 2013 to 2019. And under his successful tenure, FIRST more than doubled its size, and Dr. Bossy's business acumen and passion to do good led to many advances in FIRST. So quite naturally, the mission of this scholarship is to encourage and support high school students who wish to pursue post-secondary education and a career in a leadership and business role. So the ideal candidate would be someone who has demonstrated strong leadership traits, innovative thinking, and wants to motivate positive change in the community and in business. Anyone who has been on an FRC team or FTC team and is planning to pursue a major or degree program at college or university in the fields of entrepreneurship or innovation leadership. Those are the people that should apply. So applications again for this are due on January 31st. So last year we were super excited because we created, sorry, the next slide. we created the Indigenous Scholarship Award in the amount of $5,000. And the mission of this scholarship is to support Indigenous peoples living across Canada to pursue and complete post-secondary studies in a certificate program, diploma, applied degree, or bachelor's degree. So the ideal candidate would be an Indigenous person who has participated in a first program and is a strong STEM leader. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. So, and this was also a fairly new scholarship. I think we brought this in 2020. And this is in partnership with Build a Dream. So there's a wonderful synergy between First Canada and Build a Dream. They specialize in bringing programs across the province that attract and encourage and empower female students to pursue careers in skilled trades and STEM. So females intending to continue their education at a college in a skilled trade are encouraged to apply for this scholarship. Each year we give away 2 of them, and they're both valued at $3,000 each. And they're for young women who demonstrate their desire to pursue an education in a skilled trade, and also who can demonstrate how they stood out as a STEM role model. So, and just so you know, one of our first scholarships was awarded last year to Kayla from Team 865. So, Kayla. And then finally, if you could go to the next slide, I just wanted to talk a little bit sort of about the requirements for our scholarships, and then just a couple tips on how to apply for our scholarships. And a lot of them are probably going to be very similar to what Arti spoke about. So for us, most of our scholarships work that you go online. There's an online application that you fill out. There'll be questions that ask you about how you were involved in first, what teams you were on, what school you're at, what school you're planning to go to, and what you're planning to study. We usually ask for a 500-word essay, and the topic is dependent on which scholarship you're applying for. And then we also ask for a letter of recommendation from a teacher, and then finally your official high school transcript. So some of the steps, just to reiterate a little bit, when applying for the scholarship is to really research them, find out which scholarships you feel like you're eligible for, and also to make sure and note of when they close. Make a checklist, if you can, of all the necessary items like your transcripts, essays, so that you can check them off as you complete each step. And if you are required to submit a letter of recommendation, remember to reach out as early as you can, or I already also had a great idea to keep recommendation letters from other employers and things like that in a folder. So people really need some time to create these letters. So what I like to do in anything that I do is kind of pretend that things are due 2 weeks earlier. And then for this, I would even give the people an extra 2 weeks to a month in order to allow them time to write the letter. And this allows, like, for any unforeseen circumstances that may arrive, so that you're, not missing your deadline. And then if you're requested to write an essay, also give yourself some time to do that. And it never hurts to get a friend, family member, teacher, whomever that's around to give it a proofread, just to make sure that, everything's on point and that you're answering the questions correctly and that there's no spelling mistakes. And then finally, just to check with your school and make sure, how much time you need to get transcripts together. So those would sort of be the 5 things that we would recommend. And then just as a final note, I wanted to bring attention to a wonderful First Canada Live episode that featured 3 of our scholarship recipients. So there was Sarah Arnold, Nick Rampertab, and Angela Tolles. And they discuss their experiences about applying for scholarships. So it's worth watching. You'll get some really awesome tips from people who have just gone through the whole experience. And they really have some great ideas and tricks up their sleeves to help you get the applications out there. So that is all. I believe that we have the links that will be posted on your website, Mihir. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'll be posted on warp7.ca/seminar series.
Awesome. Thank you. So that is all that we have for today. So I wonder whether we can open the floor and see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah. First, I want to say thank you to both Arti and Joanna for spending time out of their busy days to help us with the seminar series. And I also like to thank Wealthsimple Foundation for sponsoring with us to provide this seminar series this year. Now we have the floor for questions. If I'm not taking engineering and instead taking business, do I qualify for first awards or first scholarships?
Yes, you do. Joanna just mentioned the Don Bossie Innovation and Leadership Scholarship. So that's one that you would definitely qualify for. There are some universities and colleges that are general scholarships. So you can apply to those. There are some that are very specific and tell you to go into engineering, but there are some that are general. So you can definitely take a look at those too. But definitely the one for Don Bossie's Leadership and Innovation, you can definitely look at that because that is a combination of anything that you do in robotics, not just engineering or building a robot. It could be, you could be doing something in the arts field, but your leadership in that area is what we're looking for.
Could I still apply if I'm on a community team instead of a team that's built into a school?
Absolutely, yeah. Joanna's nodding her head. I'll let Joanna respond.
No, absolutely. You can 100% apply if you're on a community team, for sure.
If I've been involved with FTC for 1 year, would I still be eligible for scholarships?
Yes, you definitely would be. I know the criteria last year was you could do it, I think you can do it 1 year for sure and you'll be eligible. Sometimes they also, some scholarships have even the previous years. So even if you were part of a previous year, but not part of the first team this year, you're still eligible. So you have to look, certain criteria might be different in different scholarships. But yes, if you are, even for 1 year, part of any first program, you can apply of FTC or FRC.
Does a person have to have a specific GPA to get into first scholarships, or does marks not matter?
That would depend on each university or college scholarship if you're applying, because they have different requirements. So that's where the research part about, like when you're going to that apply, it's never too bad to apply to as many scholarships. I know some students have applied for like 20 or 30 scholarships and they've got 1 or 2, or they may sometimes, it depends. I mean, I think don't be too hard on yourself in applying for these, but take the chance to apply, because I think you never know what, there's a very small number of people that apply for scholarships, and you'll be surprised. You could be, you could be one of those that actually have applied for some. So, so for sure, yeah, the main thing is to apply and make sure you do that. Yeah.
And also, if I could just add something to that, we really try with our scholarships to be very well-rounded. So not everything is determined by your marks. We look a lot at the essays that come in. We look at the recommendation letters. So it's not just all about like the people who get 90s or 100s or 80s. It's really a combination of all the things that people have done that determines who's getting the scholarship as well.
Building off university scholarships, is there any scholarships available for students that are in the 2nd or 3rd year of university, or is it only 1st year?
I think some universities and colleges do allow you to apply in the 2nd and 3rd year. Some give you the 1st year, some give you all 4 years or 3 years. So it depends on the university or college. I believe McMaster is one of them that gives you more, but I can double check that. You can look up the scholarship per university and get that information very easily. Actually, it'll tell you.
Does location matter when applying for scholarships, or could I apply for all the first scholarships?
Location, in terms of, you have to be a First Canada student. So it has to be across Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, just Canada. It has to be Canada-wide. So a US team member may not be eligible for the First Canada scholarships. So right? So universities and colleges you can apply, but not for the First Canada ones like the Canadian Women in STEM or the Don Bossie Leadership and Innovation Scholarship.
Okay. Are the amounts that the amount of money that a student is given, does it change if a student's on an FTC team or an FRC team?
No, it's the same. So if you look up the website, it'll tell you, for example, McMaster gives you $15,000 a year. It doesn't matter if you were part of FRC or FTC, if that's the question, and I hope I answered that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Would FLL, like if I did FLL in middle school, could I still apply for first scholarships, or do I have to do an FRC or FTC team?
I know for most of them right now, they have FTC and FRC. There might be a few that may have FLL experience or just say first experience. So if it says first experience, you could be part of any first program. There might be some that are very specific to FRC and FTC, and there might be some that are very specific to FRC. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. If I were, how would you get the money if you were if you get a first scholarship?
Do you want to take that, Joanna?
Well, I was going to go, Arti, do you want to do that?
Okay. Yeah. If you get the first Canada scholarships, we are in touch with you right after you are, awarded to be the winner. And we will be in touch with you. We'll be able to get some more documentation from you at that point. We'll validate some information, and then we'll send a check to you. There's a little bit of a process where you'll have to fill up a form and send it to us and be able to, but then you would get your check. It'll come by mail to you in check. Yes.
One question that I had personally, if I volunteer for a first event, could I ask someone there to write me a letter of recommendation?
As a volunteer, yes, you could. I mean, if you volunteered at that event, the VC or volunteer coordinator, or depending on what role you've done, if you've had a supervisor in that position. So for example, sometimes if you're doing field reset, you would have a field supervisor. So that person has seen your work and they're working with you throughout the day in that volunteer position. So they might be able to do a referral for you in that volunteer capacity. Yes.
Should I apply for, it's much more easier to apply for large scholarships. Is there any advantage of applying for some of the smaller first scholarships, like less prize money?
I would personally say one advantage is that, and I could be very wrong here, but my assumption would be that maybe not as many people apply for them. So the competition might not be as large. And I personally feel that you should apply for as many scholarships as you can, because the more that you apply for, the more chances are, whether they're big or small, the more chance that that you will be awarded something. And any amount of money, I think once you're going off to university is fantastic. So I would say just apply for as many as you can personally.
Yeah.
One question from, sorry.
No, I was just going to add on to that just for one comment was around, like Joanna said, apply for as many as possible. I think the good thing is once you've applied for one, you know how the formatting of the next few ones are going to work. So it makes it easier as you're going through, because you've got your recommendations letter, you've got kind of everything already organized. So it's easier once you apply to one to apply for more, just tweaking it a little bit. Sometimes, some may have 500 words, some may have 350. So tweaking it a little bit, but then being able to apply to as many, like Joanna said, would be the key.
One question from our chat was, how is Dean's List different from scholarships?
Dean's List is an acknowledgement of all the work you've done with FIRST, is a reward for what you've done at FIRST. And there's no monetary, scholarship amount that you're going to take to university when you become a Dean's List. But the Dean's List, being nominated for the Dean's List itself is an achievement, because you're nominated amongst thousands of students here in Canada or in Ontario, right? So that piece of accomplishment that you've had as being a Dean's List student is going to play heavily on your application reports, right? Because you're now, think about how many FRC teams or FTC teams we have, and you're nominated across all those students in Canada to be that Dean's List student. So I think that accomplishment is huge when you're applying for scholarships. It is different in terms of there's no money rewarded for Dean's List.
Final question for today. Does applying for a first scholarship earlier than the deadline actually help the participant, or should we just submit them or does it help if you submit earlier?
This one's a funny one, Joanna, go.
So, I mean, personally, it doesn't make a difference, to be honest. Like, you can submit it at the beginning, you can submit it at the end. It makes absolutely no difference. In terms of how we go through the documents. The documents are actually sent to a committee, so it has nothing really to do with the staff at First Canada or anything. And we're just laughing because lots of people tend to submit at the very end, which makes it, interesting for us. So we would love it if you would submit throughout the whole time, but we also understand that people like, do things sort of at the last minute. But I would think for anyone submitting it would be wise to do it prior to the deadline in case you can't get your letter in time or in case you can't get your transcripts. So to give yourself a little bit of time if something should come up, that you have that extra time to get things together. But that would be my personal preference, but it doesn't make any difference when you submit.
All right, then. I think that's the last question. So if you have any questions, you can just send me an email or send our team an email, and I can forward them to Joanna or Arti. I want to thank them again for spending time on a busy day helping us, and also like to thank the Wealthsimple Foundation one more time for allowing us to host the seminar series this time again.
Thank you.
Thank you.